You are listening to the Two and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
Grab some poutine and a double-double. It's time for the Two and Out CFL podcast.
He's got it! Oh, baby!
Every week, Travis Currah.
That's Grey Cup me, which is a different person.
And Brazilian Tide.
Hunters are people too.
Talk fantasy football, bring you the latest in CFL news, and sprinkle in a little bit of nonsense.
Oh, nearly intercepted, and it's over!
Ready, set, hunt!
And we are part of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. It's Travis Currah and Sheldon Jones. I know the Royal Rumble was over the weekend, but Ty, I guess, has a Royal Rumble going on in his guts. So it was a last-minute substitution for Sheldon to come on. Thanks for being available. Your first off-season 2-0. These are a little bit of a different beast, man.
Well, yeah, and with rumors, I might not have many shots in the future, so I got to do it when I can do it.
Yeah, Ty, with maybe, well, we won't jinx it. Well, no, we just won't put anything out there. What did you think about the Royal Rumble? I mean, I'm sure at least 32% of our 10 listeners watched the Rumble. So, I mean, the ending I thought was intriguing, fascinating, dramatic. It was fun. But the rest of the show was kind of anticlimactic, I found.
Yeah, like the men's rumble, I like obviously, you know, I'm a Cody mark, so I'm happy he won, but he shouldn't have been number 30. He should have been like number 1 or 2.
I guess that's why it just made it so like there was no drama. I found it was, and that's what
it was a slow match. Yeah. The Logan Paul and Ricochet spot was insane.
That's probably the best part of the match.
Yeah. Well, Brock getting eliminated so early too.
That was fun.
The women's match was cool. Like I thought it was good. It was paced. I thought that was the best one.
Other than the main event.
Yeah. They didn't rely on all the veterans, but they actually had some good NXT and like they got some good heat with Nia being number 30, but they screw up the play her music before the countdown. Of course. Screw that up. But no, but the ending was crazy. I was like tears in my eyes, man. That's why we watch it right there.
And another happy belated birthday to my mom, who celebrated her birthday over the weekend.
Nice.
This episode of Two and Out is brought to you by Park Power, your friendly local utilities provider in Alberta, offering internet, electricity, and natural gas with low rates, awesome service, and profit sharing with local charities. In Alberta, you get to choose who to buy your internet, electricity, and natural gas from. So Park Power has low overhead, which in turn allows them to offer you low competitive rates. So reach out for no obligations comparison. You can email estimates@parkpower.ca. And if you decide to switch, it's really easy. It's just a change to your billing, and you can feel good knowing you're helping give back to your communities with your utilities bills. Learn more at parkpower.ca. All right. Now, this is, I guess, kind of old news now. We'll start with the Nathan Rourke thing, where he's going to Jacksonville. And this is shortly after the Jacksonville Jaguars actually won a playoff game here. We don't get to say that all the time, but they've got the young quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, right? And man, I'm looking at his birthday, October 6, 1999. So he's a young quarterback. I kind of found it to be a little bit of an interesting decision for Rourke. I know they've given him assurance that he's got a chance to be the number 2, but I found that destination was interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure. He at least gets to be in the sun, I guess.
No pressure.
Backup quarterback in Jacksonville, maybe like free AEW tickets. Like, who knows? I was really, really hoping that Jacksonville was going to somehow win the Super Bowl so that Triple H would have to send Tony Khan a belt. That would have been amazing.
Hey, that would be That would be interesting. Speaking of other CFL quarterbacks, Bo Mitchell signing in Hamilton. So despite that property investment in Regina, which I know it didn't happen, he's going to the Hammer, and he gets himself some pretty good money here. He gets all bonuses included. He's got a chance to make over $500,000, $520K a year. So good for him. Probably good for Ticats fans in a Grey Cup year that they've locked up their quarterback at this point in the offseason. And then hopefully that kind of helps the dominoes fall for the rest of that team, because they've got some significant free agents still pending in Hamilton. Yeah. And in a Grey Cup year, those fans, they're expecting to at least compete. It wasn't long ago where they were in the Grey Cup and they had the champs on the ropes. They took them to overtime and they actually had the lead for much of the game. It just wasn't there, but it is going to be a new look Ticats team with Bo Mitchell in 2023. I mean, it was starting to look, I think, a bit worrisome for Hamilton. So I think that's a bit of a sigh of relief that they just got the deal done.
Yeah, I think there's some fans that are still sad about Dane, but I don't know why. It'll be interesting to see if he can do what Henry did after he left Calgary, because the last time the Hamilton went back-to-back Grey Cups was when Hank went there, right? So
that's true.
So we'll see. I think he still has it. I said on the show before, I was hoping the Riders were going to find some way to get him, but there's no way he wanted to come to this dumpster fire, and I don't blame him one bit.
He said that in a much more classy way. He wasn't a fan of
very professional
or the lack of moves that were happening in Regina. And one of the most unfortunate parts of these new COVID era or post-COVID era schedules is that Hamilton's not going to be in McMahon Stadium in 2024 unless they have an Eastern crossover. And
well, it could happen. BC could fall, Edmonton and us, we could all tank. Like,
oh, could you imagine that? That would be wild. And now, speaking of Dane Evans, that needs to be figured out in a hurry here, because teams are going to want to figure out their budgets. And when the quarterback eats up most of that salary cap, Dane Evans, is he going to be dealt? Are they going to straight up release him here? And obviously the headlines say he's going to Saskatchewan, like basically it's a done deal. But now the Riders are basically between Dane Evans and Cody Fajardo, and after 2022, I mean, if we're talking after 2021, it's like, hey, that's a pretty good position for the Riders. After 2022, memories are short. It's not the best position for the Riders going into 2023.
No. Any team, if any team trades for him right now, they're incredibly stupid.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Hamilton could be pricks here, because they really don't have to do anything until training camp, because he has the show up and pass and he gets like 170 or whatever it is, right? So who knows what's going to happen there. But yeah, if O'Day trades to get Dane's rights, but I don't know I don't even know what I want them to do. I kind of want them to roll with somebody unproven and save a bunch of money, like do the Nathan Rourke, what BC did, like bring in Matthew Schiltz, bring in Pip, I don't know, bring in some other people who we can see roll the dice, but then you have a lot of money that you can try to get someone like Geno Lewis. You can try to get some more studs on defense, because our defense is going to have to win us some games this year.
Is it worth signing Geno Lewis if you don't have an O-line or a quarterback to get him the ball?
No.
And there was a great piece, I thought, by Jamie Nye that he contributed to CFL.ca. Are the Riders going to spend money on the O-line here in the offseason, or what their strategy, what's that going to be? Because last year, fans would have told you it's an offseason priority and nothing happened. This year, it's a priority again. How are they can't just wait on the Brett Jones thing, and again, that's only one player. So look what Ottawa did. They got almost every veteran offensive lineman in free agency last year, and I mean, they turned it around pretty quickly compared to the year before. So are they going to open up the pocketbooks for that, or are they just going to stay the course and try to rely on their scouting, which really just hasn't worked?
No, but they kind of have to rely on the scouting because there's not a lot of like all-star offensive linemen out there. Like with the XFL, with the USFL, it's just there isn't the amount of O linemen coming up here. And like the one guy who I hope they do bring in, if as long as his leg is okay, is Derek Dennis, but O'Day lowballed him last year. So why would Dennis want to come here, right? And apparently he's lowballing Sankey. Like, he's not in a position right now where he needs to lowball people. I understand if he thought that he had a shot at Bo, that he was trying to be tight with his money. Yeah. But now that Bo's gone, you hear on the Sports Cage, Shaq Evans said he doesn't think he'll be back. Duke won't be back.
That opens money.
A significant amount of money. I think it was on Piffles. They said it was like $1.6 million between like 5 people or something like that.
Wow.
Like it's, or maybe I'm misquoting. I don't know, but they'll have a lot of money to play with, and that's why I think you roll the dice with a cheap quarterback. But like, if you're Cody Fajardo and they come back to you, you can be like, yeah, pay me $100,000 more than you think you want to pay me because the way you treated me, right? Like,
and on the other hand, if they don't have an O-lineman, it doesn't matter, or O-line, it doesn't matter who's back there. And Dane was crumbling under the pressure in Hamilton last year. And if he's feeling the pressure there, it just gets more magnified in Regina when fans are already in a poor mood. Like, there are some veteran offensive linemen that right now are pending free agents: Joel Figueroa, Derek Dennis, Darius Sirocco, Suk Chung, Justin Lawrence, Michael Couture, Peter Godber. Of course, I'm sure a few of those guys will end up staying put, and the Riders can't sign them all, but there are some pending options at this moment, and the legal tampering period is going to open right away here. Right now, it's like the illegal tampering period, but I mean, there are some names, but is that the way that they're going to spend? We'll see.
Yeah, the only other thing I can think about there is it seems like from all the interviews that Jeffries is giving is that he wants to have a way more collaborative offense and playing to strengths, which that's not what Jason Moss was last year. Jason Moss is like, this is my offense and you're going to do what I tell you to do. And I think there's still a possibility of Cody, if Cody's back here, having somebody who can play to Cody's strengths instead of trying to make Cody into what he's not, or anybody. Maybe he can do good things for Dane Evans too. I don't know, but I don't want to pay, like, you're not paying Dane more than $250, I would say right now. Like, you got to be very incentive based. He's shown that he can get teams to the Grey Cup, but
I know,
can't win. So it's going to be a very interesting couple weeks here in Riders.
Yeah, the Riders have extended a defensive back, Jeremy Clark, and like you said, it looks like that deal's not really moving anywhere with Darnell Sankey, who was one of those bright spots on defense for the team and played well since he come into the league with Calgary. But there is some sad news. for Rider Nation, a Grey Cup champion in 1989. Dave Albright, who scored one of the biggest touchdowns in that 1989 season, passed away, 63 years old. I love looking back at those memories. That 89 game, one of the greatest games of all time. And Darnell Sankey this year actually broke Albright's tackle record in a single season. He had 118 in that big play in the 1989 West Division Final, which I'm sure that Edmonton fans don't want to hear about. Edmonton leading 10-3. Eddie Lowe hits Tracy Ham, forces the fumble. Dave Albright takes it 62 yards to the house for the game-changing touchdown as the 9-9 Riders upset the 16-2 Edmonton club. It just goes to show, hey, you can win as many games as you want during the regular season. Anything can happen during the playoffs, and Dave Albright, a big part of that 1989 championship run for the green and white. Those BC Lions, who are going to be losing Nathan Rourke, are going into this year, I'd say, in an all right position with Vernon Adams Jr., who came in last year, and I think it's got to be one of the toughest things to come into the middle of the season as a quarterback and try to kind of learn on the fly. At least now he gets an off season. He'll be able to, gain some chemistry with the offensive coordinator, Jordan Maximic, and they'll have a full training camp with him at the helm. And I think that going into this year will be a big one. And I kind of wonder, I've been talking to some Lions fans, if VA can be the one to bring Gino to the West Coast, and then you've got that connection from the Alouettes colors to the orange and black. I think that would be a pretty cool move and a big one for those in Vancouver if they could make that happen.
For sure. And honestly, they'll be paying a little bit more maybe than Brian Burnham would have been making anyway. So it's not like it's just plug and play, basically. I think that's definitely a very possible situation for him to go out there.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. They ended up extending TJ Lee and Bo Lacumbo as well. So the veterans in the defensive linebacking core staying put in BC. We go to Edmonton, where they've extended Ed Gainey, his 11th CFL season already. Since his time in Saskatchewan, has become very familiar with Chris Jones, so I think Jones wants to keep him around for some leadership on the defense. Ante Milanovic-Litre sticking around for another year, and they've also extended Niles Morgan, the linebacker who had 41 tackles in 6 games in 2022. So he was pretty beat up last year, had limited time. He played at Notre Dame, and he actually had a good number of tackles with the Elks in 2021 as well. What's interesting here is Jamin Pelly, the defensive lineman for the Elks. He left the University of Calgary early to play in the CFL, and now he's declared for the 2023 NFL draft. So we'll see what happens here. He was actually selected by the Elks in the supplemental draft for the CFL in 2022. So we'll see if the big man ends up getting drafted in the NFL. I mean, that would be cool to see. He's 24. He's probably going to get some attention from those NFL teams. I got season tickets in Edmonton, and there were times when that D-line, especially towards the end of the year, Seresna's healthy and Pelly up the middle, if they're able to keep some of those guys healthy and on the team without losing them, I think the Elks are just going to get better and better, as much as the Chris Jones haters don't want to admit it. I'd see more positive things in Edmonton than a little bit further east in the rectangle.
Well, yeah, year 2 of Chris Jones's teams, like he usually at least doubles the win total. Yeah. So they'll all be road games, but like
I was gonna say maybe
win more games.
Like I'm no math major, but if he gets a home win, it's like an infinite times more.
I was going to say, when you're talking about the Elks fans not wanting to remember the 89 season, at least they had home wins then. Yeah. So that's a nice memory.
Yeah. Other than the last one of the year, which they wanted to win at home.
Yeah.
The Ottawa Red Blacks have extended Jeremiah Masoli here, and they've kind of restructured their deal a little bit here. So the Red Blacks get $75,000 in salary cap relief, and he's gonna be able to keep like 30 grand more after taxes. So I don't know. There's some accountants in there trying to help him out with that deal there, but he's staying in Ottawa. And look, if he's healthy, Ottawa, they've got a pretty good. I'm excited for them with, Kahari going into this year, Mazzoli, Arbuckle. That's a pretty good tandem, I would say.
Yeah, no, I honestly think that they might be competing for like second spot. Like I think, on paper they've done a very good job with the coaching staff. I think it's going to be a breath of fresh air for those players.
Coming up in August, he turns 35. Last year probably shouldn't have been hurt. You never want to see a guy hurt. He only played 4 games. Now, the shortened season for Hamilton, he played 12 games. And then in 2019, he was an absolute fire. And he only played 6 games that year. So the last few years, they've been pretty rough for Masoli. Man, I hope that he gets to stay on the field here and put together some things here for Ottawa, who also got to extend Lorenzo Malden, the most outstanding defensive player and absolute monster on the D line last year. And he's going to want to prove that, hey, it's not just a one and done. And Sean Burke, he's feeling pretty good bringing Malden over from Hamilton to Ottawa. That was one of the biggest moves for his early tenure as a GM in Ottawa. And if you haven't seen it, Sheldon, and really anybody else listening to the show, season 2 is underway for Behind the R, the YouTube series that the Red Blacks put together. These content teams for these CFL teams, they deserve a big thumbs up. That's some good stuff that they're putting together, and it'll be stuff. Did you watch it yet? It'd be stuff to watch this off season. It's good
I haven't yet. I'm going to check it out. I've seen it on some of the Ottawa fans, like Twitters and Instagrams and stuff. And it looks awesome. And that's what the CFL needs. They should have, every team should have that series. Like, make it. Yeah. Take the league, get this genius company to send the league, some video editing equipment, a camera, and like get stuff like this pumping. And it's nothing but positive for the ticket sales and for everything like that.
Man, and I know there's some foul language here and there, but man, if you could work this stuff into the I don't know how you promote it, but work it into the broadcast. Like, this is great stuff, and the access they're getting.
Yeah.
I think it's
awesome. They play CFL Wired every like Tuesday, and they just bleep out the swears. So whatever, just bleep out the swears. Like
grunting, yelling, and swearing. That's what we hear.
let's get a Hard Knocks like every year for the CFL. Like, come on. Like,
I'm in for that. Could you imagine a behind the scene Riders documentary from last year? Ooh. That's movie material.
That would be amazing.
At least show the drama. Like, not much drama in Winnipeg, where the band continues to stay together. They have extended defensive lineman Jackson Jeffcoat, and Mike Miller, the special teams ace, is sticking around for another year. Look, in Winnipeg, they are the Kings. Well, look, they got knocked off by Toronto in the Grey Cup, but they're going to be right back on their feet competing from day one of 2023. And I think Calgary's really making some under-the-radar moves, Sheldon, or at least some big extensions there. Cam Judge sticking around for 2 more years. Jonathan Moxey staying there. Brad Muhammad as well, playing one of the toughest positions in the CFL on the defense as a halfback. So that's a big one. And then James Vaughters, who spent a few years with the Chicago Bears, is coming back to Calgary and back in the red and white. So Jameer Thurman, Cam Judge sticking around, James Vaughters coming back. The Stampeders mean business, man.
Yep. Yeah, it's a 2-horse race in the West as far as I can see right now between them and Winnipeg. Like,
yeah,
just depends on if Mayer can keep it going and prove to be successful, and if Collaros can stay healthy. But yeah, like those teams are gonna be fun to watch this year.
The Argos have extended a defensive back, Robertson Daniel. Look, we talked about Calgary. Now we talk Calgary East. Daniel had a shortened season last year due to injury. They've also extended Robbie Smith. I mean, watching back that Grey Cup in Regina, even the fourth quarter, Robbie Smith had one of the biggest roller coaster rides of any player I've ever seen. Like, the sack, the block kick, the penalties, and he gets to stick around in double blues. So good for him, but there's still going to be a lot of talk surrounding the Argonauts. Is McLeod Bethel-Thompson going to return to the CFL? Is he going to re-sign with Toronto? And I know there seems to be some hype with Chad Kelly. What has he done? He came into the Grey Cup and stayed composed. That's tough when you haven't really played much meaningful snaps all season long, and then you get thrust into the game at the biggest time, most critical time of the year, and you don't crumble under pressure. That is impressive. Does Toronto want to roll with him at number 1, or does any other team, Saskatchewan, want to roll with him at number 1 going into this season? That's an interesting one to watch. He's sure got the chip on his shoulder and believes he can do it, which you like to see. You don't want to see a guy not believing that he can do it, but is he going to be a guy that takes a step forward this year?
Yeah, he's one of those guys that I wouldn't be opposed to the Riders rolling the dice with, just because he would probably be around that 200,000 mark if he was a starter, just because he's had a fourth quarter in a Grey Cup and he did well.
Yeah.
But he said he'd love to play for the Riders. Like, but he's definitely a guy who wants to get back to the NFL as quick as possible. So
yeah,
you have to be careful there. But the Argos, like, their only other option right now, it seems, is signing Macbeth for another year, it seems, because we don't know how long he wants to play, if he still does at all. Like, his wife's got a pretty cushy job writing in the MCU now, so he can just stay at home and watch the kid and, not get sacked. He comes to the Riders 80 times a year.
No, watch the kids or get sacked and have these defensive linemen coming after you. Depending on the day, I might go for the football.
Yeah, it's easy to say how much that I would totally stay at home if we had young kids and the wife was working. But
Tom Brady's 45. He said, "Screw this! I'm going to go play football." And look where that ended up for him. How the mighty fall. But hey, we can't take those Super Bowl rings away from him. So what am I talking about? Montreal Alouettes have extended Wesley Sutton and Tyrese Beverette, but they've got a contract they're working on with their quarterback a couple weeks out from free agency, opening Valentine's Day at noon Eastern. Will it be heartbreak or a newfound love with Trevor Harris in Montreal? I think he'll stick around. But
why wouldn't he? What, like his best year was when he was with Jason Moss before, so it's a no-brainer as long as Montreal wants to pay him like what he thinks he's worth. Better have a good field goal kicker, but again, he's somebody who, for the right price, I wouldn't be opposed if O'Day was going to try to sign him, just because we do have a good kicker, and I don't know why he's waiting this long. Like, I guess maybe he wants to see what he can get in free agency, but again, he has a coordinator that he has past history with, and obviously his GM wanted him because he basically got rid of Vernon Adams. So it's curious why he hasn't re-signed. Kind of the same thing as why it's curious why McLeod hasn't retired or signed again either, because I don't think he'd want to move on to another team just for 1 year. Like, what's kind of the point of that? But
David Cote went 44 of 51 on field goals in 2022. He might have 25 more field goal attempts if the dynamic duo of Trevor Harris and Jason Moss reunite in La Belle Province. There are some big names on the offseason list. A few of them have been mentioned that still haven't re-upped with their current teams. Geno Lewis, Darnell Sankey, Kenny the King Lawler, Nick Dembski. Interesting.
That's very surprising. I didn't know he was like, you would think he'd be one of the first people that they'd want to lock up. So that's very interesting.
And I think he's a guy that could probably get paid here.
For sure.
He went home. He won the Grey Cups. The touchdowns he was scoring in the second half of the season, a smart football player, a Canadian. If he doesn't fit into Winnipeg's budget, I think he might be able to get himself a couple bucks here. Shaq Evans, ever since he got hurt in Saskatchewan, I don't think he ever really became the same receiver again. So we'll see if he's going to be sticking around in Saskatchewan. Well, he said it doesn't look like he's going to be back. So, I mean, if when the player is saying that, I would say it's probably as good as done, right?
Yeah, and for what he's going to want, like, unless they can get him for a bargain, like he's in one of those you need to show that you still got it kind of contract years right here, because he's not. But the one thing the Riders haven't struggled with in the past is finding receivers. So I'm not opposed to them, just trying to find one at camp. I know that they might lose Schaefer Baker, maybe.
Working out in the NFL,
I think, right? Yeah. So, but you got Linnaeus. He's signed for the next year. Again, who knows who's going to be throwing the ball? So we have a couple good running backs, which hopefully they use the running backs a little bit more than Jason Moss did. It seems like that's going to be the case. So save some money and find a couple cheaper receivers.
Calling all new and emerging content creators in BC and Alberta. In case you haven't heard of Story Hive, they've been supporting storytellers in Western Canada since 2013, and this year celebrating the 10th anniversary with their biggest edition yet. The Story Hive Anniversary Documentary Edition is funding 80 short documentaries on any local story you're passionate about. You could get $20,000 in production funding, training, and mentorship and distribution on TELUS Optic TV and Stream Plus. If you live in BC or Alberta and you have an idea for a short documentary, now's the time to send in your pitch. Send in your application by February 28th at storyhive.com/apply. Your story, your narrative. there are some key dates that have been announced in the CFL offseason here. I did mention free agency opening up on Valentine's Day. March 3rd, the Invitational Combine, and then from March 22nd to 26th, over 5 days in Edmonton, the CFL Combine is happening. Basically the whole week. I mean, I would like to see the CFL week come back, but hey, to have this happening over 5 days, hopefully we get some good coverage out of that. April, pretty quiet. And then May, it's like all cylinders, man. The CFL and Global Draft happening May 2nd. Then rookie camp opens 8 days later. And then 4 days after that, training camp is open. That is happening quicker than you think. We have been seeing the Scouting Bureau rankings come out. I think there were 3 sets of twins in last year's CFL draft. The Ford brothers, the Jalen Philpott, Tyson Philpott, and now this year there's actually another set of twins. They're from London, Ontario. They're both playing at Illinois currently. Chase Brown, Sidney Brown. One's a running back, one's a defensive back. I don't know what's in the water and what makes these talented twins go playing football, but I love to see it. It always happens one on defense and one on offense too. They can practice in the backyard against each other, but I don't know, something's in the water, man, and it's fun to watch anyway.
Yeah, and it's cool if they're on the same team, they get to play together. If not, when they play each other, it's always another news story. So yeah, that's always good for the league.
Sheldon Jones, thank you for your availability and filling in for Brazilian Ty's gut rumble right now. We'll see if he's going to recover in a couple weeks. Actually, our next show is like the day before CFL free agency, so the picture will be a little bit clearer by the time you hear us again. I hope you stay warm. I hope you stay safe. You can rate, review, and subscribe to Two and Out on your favorite podcatcher. We will talk to you in a couple weeks.
See you later.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.